Cannot convince me otherwise. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Vogel. I am the tech person at PEP, and I get out of class for free to go help people with their tech problems. As you can see in the back, we are now live streaming this senior thesis session all across the world to over 30 billion people. Don't ask me why that doesn't add up. Anyways, we are streaming this on the CFC public Wi-Fi, and as you may know, that's a bit slow. So if I could kindly ask you to go onto your phones and go ahead and click that Wi-Fi button to make sure that your Wi-Fi on your phone or device or laptop or iPod or iPad or anything like that is turned off, that would be greatly appreciated.
Our next speaker is Ware. She has been attending PEP since 4A, and she plans to attend the University of North Florida in the fall. Her title is You've Got a Pride in Me.
It was the summer of 2014. All of a sudden, my life was being uprooted with a move from Texas to Florida. The time I had spent there was some of the best, creating and forming so many friendships over the years. Now, I had to start all over. Until my dad retired from the Navy, I was used to moving every 3 to 4 years. This, however, did not help the pain of constantly saying goodbye and leaving my best friends behind. While my parents had actual tangible concerns like houses, schools, and literally moving 17 hours away to think of, I was only concerned about one thing. Who was I going to be friends with? Friends, endearingly known as the family we choose, are defined by Merriam-Webster as a person attached to another by affection, and friendship is defined as the relationship between those people. Qualities of sincere friends would include trustworthiness, dependability, and loyalty. Friends listen, and they're loving. While friendships are seen throughout the Bible and in classic books, the social brain and the effect that our friends have on us is something newly studied that have remained untouched for years. Friendship was really only believed to be cultural and only seen in human society. C.S. Lewis even wrote how friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value, rather it is one of those things which gives value to survival. While C.S. Lewis was right in saying that friends add meaning to life, he was wrong in his belief that it was unnecessary. As people, it is easiest to prioritize family and romantic relationships, pushing friends to the side. However, sometimes the platonic relationships taken for granted can prove to be the most important. Personally, I've had experiences where my friends get boyfriends and all of a sudden drop off the face of the earth. And that's not really a nice experience to have. Boyfriends and girlfriends can be new and exciting, but their connections just aren't the same as friendships, and they come and they go while most friends stay. With studies now finding that loneliness as a result of no friends is as deadly as cigarette smoking or obesity, having close, stable friends is now more important than ever. Additionally, with social media being as popular as it is today, it can both harm and strengthen these bonds. The same apps that can allow friends to converse in different countries can also spread rumors and break up friends in a classroom. However, using social media to interact with friends during COVID, quarantine and lockdowns, was my saving grace in a world of chaos. In my speech, I will be talking about friends and friendship, more relating to how they are necessary for everyone, how as people we were created to connect, and the impact of friends on mental health. As humans, God created us with an innate desire to belong and to connect with others. As our social brain develops, so does the need to interact with others and to form intimate personal connections. Stuart Wolpert, a UCLA journalist, states that the need to connect socially with others is as basic as our needs for food, water, and shelter. Our predisposition to be social may explain our need to interact through social media, iPhones, and gossip, as well as why people are interested in watching other people's social interactions on soap operas. People crave social interaction so bad that even when they don't organically receive it themselves, they will achieve it through watching others, like in reality television. Wolpert continues saying how the importance of social connection is so strong that when we feel rejected or we experience social pain, our brains hurt in the same way they do when we feel physical pain. Matthew Lieberman and Naomi Eisenberger, who are both professors of psychology at UCLA, decided to test this theory using MRI scanners. They asked people to come in and just play a game of catch with 2 other people. Whenever the ball came to someone, they would decide who to throw it to next, your usual game of catch. However, 2 people would stop throwing the ball to the third forever, and every individual in the MRI scanner experienced being left out of the game.
When Eisenberger and Lieberman looked at the brain of the rejected individual, they found that the same brain regions that registered the distress of physical pain were more active when people were left out of the game compared to when they had been included. And additionally, that the more someone said they felt bad about being left out of the game, the stronger the response was in those regions. Surprisingly, Tylenol even made these effects go away, and that just shows more how the stress of social rejection mimicked physical pain just like a headache. I mean, most of the time, emotional pain is deemed not as significant as physical pain, but this study confirmed that it is just as, if not more significant. Being left out is something that almost every single kid experiences, and it can actually really affect them for a long time. And being left out is such a significant experience because our friends are the most important people to us. Rather than us being specifically pressured by our peers, sometimes just our peers' presence is enough to make us act in a way that is out of our character. A study was done by Lawrence Steinberg, a Temple University psychologist who is an expert in adolescent development. He conducted an experiment to study the impact of a peer's presence by using a video game that was like a simulation driving game. The goal was just to navigate the course as quickly as possible. The challenge was that the course had an abundance of yellow lights, and these drivers were then warned that sometimes a car would come through the intersection right as it hit yellow. However, the need to show off encouraged taking the risk of an accident. Now, sometimes the driver's friends would be in the same room with them or just visible in the next room but unable to communicate with them. With friends watching in the same room as the drivers, the adolescents took more chances. Even with the friends out of the room but still watching, they regularly took more chances. So even though our friends don't have to verbally pressurize us, the mere thought that we are being watched by our peers can make us take more risks. This occurs because there actually is a biological response in your brain when your friends are present versus when they aren't. So to see exactly what happens, the study was conducted again, but with the driver and a brain scanner. It showed that when the kids were in the presence of peers, it activated reward centers in the brain. And the more that happened, the more risk the kids took. Whenever kids are around their friends, they begin to be more reward-seeking, and this can really either be a good or a bad outcome. It all depends on what kind of friends you have. I mean, if you hang around a lot of people who smoke, you are more likely to do it, not even if they're verbally pressurizing you, but that's just because you're in their presence. But if you are friends with like studious people who, don't do drugs, you can have more positive pressure to make healthy decisions. It really all just goes back to what friends you have and are trying to impress. And we all know that our friends can influence our mental health, but what some people don't know is they can even impact our physical health. Needing friendly interaction goes beyond the superficial level of just wanting to seem cool or popular, because having the company of a close friend has a chemical effect on your body and can even influence how you see yourself. Dr. Ryan Adams, a faculty member of behavioral pediatrics at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, formed a team to run a study examining the role of a friend against a negative experience and the student's feeling of self-worth after. They were asked to write in a journal about an experience that had happened 20 minutes prior, who they were with at the time, how they felt about the situation, and then to rate their self-worth. Student salivary samples were also taken to measure salivary cortisol, which would just indicate the intensity of the student's stress level. At the end of the study, the researchers found that when a close friend was present during an emotionally difficult experience, there was little change in cortisol levels even as the negative experiences increased. However, when that friend was absent, the cortisol levels were just overall increased. According to researchers, this means that the presence of a close friend during negative experiences protects against decreased global self-worth and activation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenocortical axis. So that is a lot of really, really big words. Pretty much all that means is that having a close friend with you can protect against a negative experience and even affects how you see yourself afterwards. While on the other hand, being alone can make these experiences worse. I mean, being lonely has been proven to lead to health issues or even just worsen them. Honor Whiteman, who is an author at Medical News Today, writes about how one study reported that loneliness may be linked to Alzheimer's disease, and additionally that the risk of early death associated with loneliness, social isolation, and living alone was equal to or greater than the premature death risk associated with obesity and other major health conditions. Dr. Jennifer Spalding Givens, a professor of social work and chair of sociology, anthropology, and social work at University of North Florida, argues that this is because good friends help us to feel connected and purposeful. They help us deal with stress, cope with trauma, and adopt health habits. In short, since as humans we were created to connect, our health declines drastically without necessary friendships. We are designed to spur each other on towards success, and our social brain requires healthy friendships for us to perform at our best, both mentally and physically. We need friendships to grow and thrive. Now, a lot of people could argue that the development of social media can call genuine friendship into question because constantly being online can prove to be destructive to friendships. Cell phone addiction is becoming more and more prevalent and can only cause disconnect. I mean, we all have that one friend who is unable to put their phone down, and not only is this just annoying, but it causes disconnect and can be destructive to your relationship with them. Denworth adds that visual cues are missing online, and the artificial sense of distance and anonymity can result in saying and doing things kids wouldn't dream of face to face. However, bullies aren't something that was created with social media, and psychologist Candace Odgers from University of California argues that the way young people are connecting digitally mirrors the way they connect offline. So, although rumors do have the ability to spread quickly online, it could be argued that the exact same would happen offline. Positive in-person qualities like kindness and a willingness to listen can carry over into digital areas, but negative qualities can also manifest like aggression or rash behavior. I mean, having social media can actually strengthen some bonds and offer a variety of people to interact with, and many youth that have multiple strong offline friendships tend to use online communication to strengthen those offline friendships, using online platforms to remain in contact with not seeing them face to face. I mean, one of my best friends does not go to school with me, and even though I could go weeks without seeing her, because of social media, I can still be involved in her life and talk to her almost every single day, and it really just strengthens our friendship. So while many people will argue that social media is ultimately destructive to all relationships, it's really only an extension of whatever's happening offline, and again, can be good or bad, all just depending on character. So I bet you're all thinking, does the Bible say anything about friendship? The Bible actually gives an example of a beautiful relationship between friends shown through David and Jonathan. In 1 Samuel 1:18, it is said that the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. So even though Jonathan was the son of King Saul and David was destined to overthrow him, Jonathan was faithful, loyal, he gave up his own right to be king, and he defended David against his father. All of these are qualities of a biblical friendship focused on loving the other person and just putting them before yourself. After Jonathan's death, David laments in 2 Samuel 1:25-26 and cries out, "How the mighty have fallen in battle. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You are very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women." The love friends share with us is so incredibly important and life-giving that it can surpass even romantic relationships. Additionally, the Bible gives guides on what to watch out for when choosing friends that become your family. Although it's a popular verse, Proverbs 27:17 gives good caution on the impact of friends, saying, "Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another." It's extremely important to remember that when interacting with or choosing friends, we're aware of their character and the role it could play in changing our own. Gossip-hungry friends can result in us feeling unworthy to participate in conversation without knowing the latest headlines, while sneaky friends can rub off on us, encouraging us to lie to our parents and sneak out late at night. On the flip side, loving and caring friends are encouraging and can assist us in loving ourselves and others better. Whatever we are consistently surrounded by will just in some way be incorporated into our character, so it's important that we surround ourselves with good biblical things in all areas of life, but specifically our friends. John 15:12-13 speaks more about a commandment to love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. In this verse, Jesus is specifically commanding all of his disciples to love one another with the strength God loves us with. While we don't necessarily have to always be on edge, ready to die at any moment for our friends, our love for them can be shown by consistently putting them just above ourselves. One of the greatest commandments Jesus said was to love our neighbors as we would love ourselves, and pouring this love into friendships is just an impactful way to obey. So, to sum it all up, friends are just extraordinarily important to have in life. As humans, God did not create us to live alone. We have an innate desire to connect and interact with those around us. When we don't create friendships, the pain is surprisingly similar to physical pain in the way our brains respond. And this occurs because our friends' influence is one of the strongest driving forces in our lives, especially as teenagers. Throughout my life, I have had many instances where I had to figure out who my real friends were. When rumors spread, real friends do not ignite the fire. When life happens, your real friends are there for you. Real friends do not go behind your back, and real friends do not press you to make a decision that you don't want to. The Bible very accurately depicts what we should look for in true friendships, and when our friends are not loving us as they should be, something has to give. So, I'll leave you guys with just one question. Are you the kind of friend that God wants you to be?
So, in this day and age, a lot of young people have found friends online, like exclusively online, haven't even met them before. And I just want to ask, and a lot of times they find these friends when it's difficult for them to make friends as well. Do you think this is healthy, and does it have a value that's comparable to having actual friends in real life? Does it have any comparable value?
So your question is, sorry. A lot of people making more friends online today. Is it healthy to do that? And then does it compare to friends in real life? I would say that, having friends online isn't necessarily bad. I would say that having in-person friends, like physical people who you can talk to and like know exactly who you are, I think that is more important. But having friends online is not necessarily bad. Does that answer your question?
So for people who can't find many friends in person, it's a good alternative.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Yes. Yes.
What would you say if you've been friends with someone for a long time and then all of a sudden they start to make really bad decisions? Should you keep that friendship because of how it was in the past? Or should you try to
So your question is that if you're friends with someone for a long time and they start making bad decisions, should you still be friends with them or should you just move on? I would say it really depends on what kind of decisions they're making. If you want to impact them in a good way and you know you won't be influenced negatively by them, I would say be a good influence on them, but distance yourself. Like, don't let yourself be influenced by them, and if you think that you are, I would definitely distance myself.
Similar question, would you say, as in real friends, a larger group of real friends is better, or like a smaller group?
So your question is, do you think a larger group of friends is better or a smaller group?
Definitely quality over quantity is what I would say. It just depends on how close they are to you and if you can really trust them. Like, I would rather have one or two really, really close friends than a huge group of people that I don't really know and don't really know me. Not that that's necessarily bad, but just a couple close people that you can really talk to. Does that answer your question? Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning of speech you were moving because of military. So did those periodic moves affect the way you built your friendships?
You're asking me if my moves in the military affected my friendships. Personally, all that stuff kind of happened when I was younger. Like, I moved here when I was 10.
So it was a lot easier to make friendships at that age compared to now. So I would say it didn't really affect me that much back then. Yes.
Do you think men and women can have as close relationships as two men and vice versa? What do you think about that?
Okay, so your question is that if like, basically, is there any difference between male and female friendships? I would say that you can still be, like, as, like, men can still be as close to each other as women can be. I think there's different ways to show that, though. Does that answer your question?